Welcome to the Live Your Dreams podcast, where success leaves clues and someone has your answer. Joined as always with my lovely co-host, Miss Tia McKissick.
Hello.
Hello, Tia. How was your week?
Great. How was yours?
Oh, fantastic. All right, before we get started, let's help somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, Fund and Grow. Go to the description link, log in, get a free funding training from the good people at Fund and Grow. Fund and Grow. Fund and grow your business. Learn how to get a free funding training at Fund and Grow. Go down to the description link and hit that button. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about who are you without your family and friends. That was a good topic, Tia. What made you come up with a topic like that?
I just thought about it.
Yeah. When you said that, I was like, man, that's a really good question.
But it's hard to answer.
Right. But let me start off with the story. It was a man and wife who had a relationship, and the wife came to the man and said, hey, I really need a brush. It's this special type of brush to brush my hair. It's the only brush that'll work to brush my hair.
Okay.
And it was a cost to it. So he said, well, my watch is broken and I need my watch to work and I have to get my watch fixed. So he went to work the next day. And then while he was at work, when he left, he said, you know what? I really don't need this watch. So he went to sell his watch instead of getting it fixed and took the money to buy his wife a brush. So then when he got home, he was so excited. He was calling his wife, calling her. He couldn't find her. So then he kept calling. So then she came out of the room and all of her hair was cut off. So he said, what happened? I brought this brush for you. She said, well, I know you really wanted your watch. So I cut all my hair and I sewed my hair and I used the money to buy this new watch for you.
Oh, wow.
So when you think of a story like that, the moral of the story is that that's love.
Right, that is love.
He sacrificed something for himself so that he could get something for his wife.
Right.
The wife, in turn, sacrificed something for herself so that she could get something for him. So when you look at it that way, that's sacrifice, that's love. Right. And when you ask that question, who are you without your family and friends, that was a hard question to answer. Because when I thought about that, I was like, I don't know.
Right.
I honestly don't know because, we just left a family event. And I think from everything you and I do, it is family.
Right.
So if you would say, who am I without my family? I don't know. I mean, how would you answer that question? That was a really good question. I'm glad you said that, but how would you answer that question?
I would say I don't know either. I guess my life would be boring if I didn't have my family and friends, I guess.
Yeah, because it's weird because every time I think of our day, and you and I, we both, we work hard, but I think most of the time we work the way we do because of our family. Right? Because we want to enjoy our family. We want to be able to do nice things.
And stuff.
Want to do the vacations. You want to do things like that. And I think the reason you do some of these things and make some of these sacrifices is for your family.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the story I just told. Everything they did was the sacrifice for themselves so that they could do something for their family.
Right.
And when I thought about when you said that, I was like, man, how can I answer that question? And all week I was just thinking about that. Like, how can I answer that question? Like, who am I without my family and my friends? Now, when you think about it, let's look at that. Because like you and I now, we have a family. We have 4 beautiful children, right? We had 3 beautiful grandchildren. And before I met you or before you met me, we didn't have none of that.
Right.
But now that is our life, right? That's because true. Before I met you, my mother was my life. Right. And before you met me, you had your mother and your father.
Right.
Right.
And my sisters.
Right. And I had my brother. So I think before that, but now when you think of our family and friends, the cornerstone of that is our relationship and the relationship we have with the children. So I think that's one of the things when you say, who are we without our family and friends? Even if because the family is so extensive.
Right.
Right. So when you think about that, you're surrounded by your family, right? You're surrounded by your friends. So I think that is your life.
That's true.
So I think that is the cornerstone of it. Who are you without your family and friends? That was a hard one. And I don't know if it's even possible to answer that question for me, because my family is such a huge part of my life. And that's my number one thing. You know, all I always talk about is family.
Right.
Right. That's all I ever talk about was family and doing things together.
Right.
And again, like I just said, we just left a family event. And I think that's really the thing that we do every day.
And it's important to make memories with your family.
Yeah, and I think that's and that's why we're doing the podcast too, just so we can have memories to look back on. Right. And kind of have some milestones and show the growth. Right? Because if you look at the first podcast we did now to where we are now, it's growth.
Right.
So you want to be able to show that. You want to be able to record that. So, and that goes back to before video or before what we're doing now, we used to keep the photo albums. And I mean, we have stacks upon stacks of photo albums. Pictures, right? Memories. And I think that is, you kind of build your life.
Right.
Right? And you live your dreams by every day doing something that's worthwhile to you.
That's true.
So one of the things that you have to realize is what is worthwhile to you. So I guess let's talk about that. How did you know? Because your mother and father always said you always wanted to have a family. How did you know that you wanted to have a family?
Well, I guess, I had a big family growing up. We was triplets, and I always wanted children. I always loved children.
Mm-hmm. And
how did you know?
Well, I think from a beginning, my grandfather, my mother's father, had a huge impression on me, because that was like that house was the go-to house where all the grandkids were there.
Right.
And he just showed such a good example of being a father, of being a grandfather, where it made me say, hey, I want a family, because I want that. And I really liked the relationship he had with my grandmother.
Right.
Right. He really showed a example of what a man should be. Right.
That's true.
And what someone who loves their family should be.
Right.
He really set a great example for that. And I think that's what really made me say, hey, I really want to be, have a family, start a family, and do things like that. Let's keep that thought right there. Okay. Let's just take a quick break for our sponsors and come back and talk about that. All right. So Short Child Care, short name, long in service. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a waiting list. It is full at this time, but Short Child Care is working hard to expand. So again, call the number on your screen. And again, if it is a waiting list, but you still want to call, put your child's name on that waiting list. All right, Short Child Care, short name, long in service. That was Tom's quote. All right, so let's pick that back up, Tia. Mm-hmm. Talking about how did you know that you wanted to have a family and family was important to you? Let's answer that question. How did you know that family was important to you?
Well, the way my parents, showed an example of a good marriage. So I wanted a marriage too.
Yeah, and your parents did set a good example. I mean, and how many years were they married before they passed?
48.
48 years, yeah. So that's one of the things, and I mean that's not easy to do.
When I saw them, I said, I want kids. And when we was real young, I used to play with dolls and sit them down and talk to them and stuff like that. So I knew I wanted kids at an early age. Even my parents knew. They said, well, I know you're going to have kids. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them.
Yeah, wow.
So when we got married, you said you wanted 8.
Yeah.
But we had 4.
Yeah, and I did. In the beginning, I did say I wanted 8. But then after a while, I was like, yeah, that might not be
possible,
realistic on what we were trying to do.
Right.
Because, again, even when we would go on vacations, we always had to have minivans.
Right.
We kept a minivan or two because, again, with having that many children, we would always get on the road, go to Nags Head or Florida.
It was always fun.
Yeah, it was always fun.
Me and you always made it fun. You know,
yeah.
Go on vacations and take them to the park because you worked at night.
Yeah.
So they had a good life.
Yeah, definitely. Because, again, and those are just memories.
Right.
And now to see our children to grow up to become what they've
Now
come
they
today,
like to go on vacations
right.
and take their kids.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's like a cycle. And when I first met your parents, they were probably about our age now. But
Right.
now to see that we
their
have
age.
come to where they were, and now our children are where we were,
Right.
and it's like a cycle. And then now their kids are coming up,
Right.
and now when you get older, you start to see that this thing just repeats itself,
Right. It
and
just
you,
repeats.
and you try to get better and better. And that's why when you say, "Who are you without your family?" I just couldn't answer that question because again, I think that's who I am. You know,
Right.
I am an individual who loves family,
And I know I wouldn't know what to do. Without you.
yeah.
Us together.
Because again,
Got
it's
married so young.
yeah, it was such it's just a huge a part of our life now, because you got to think we have known each other now way over half of our life, because we've
Wow.
been married 28 years. We got married at 21. So for
Right.
21 of those years, we didn't know each other, but for 28, we did. So we've actually been married longer now than we did when we actually met. So that's weird,
weird.
isn't it? But it don't seem like that, though, do it?
Yeah.
It don't seem like that. But it's funny how that time flies, right?
And everything you said in the beginning of our marriage came true.
Yeah, and again, it's all about living your dreams, but you got to know what you want.
Right.
And
true.
that's why live your dreams is so important. Someone has your answer. Anything you want to do in life, all you have to do is see who else done it and just duplicate the steps.
And hold your loved ones accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, you can live your dreams, but you got to know what you want.
Right.
When I remember when you were down at the Department of Agriculture and we were sitting on that bench
Right.
and we were talking about some of the things we we're going to do, we knew what we wanted.
Right.
And if you know what you want and you go after it, I mean, you'll get it.
And
But-
then also, like, you used to make a vision board. So
Yep.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, I still
To
do.
have pictures.
Yeah, I still do, because that's one of the things where I've always thought you need something to wake you up in the morning.
Right.
You need something to keep you up at night. You need something to be excited about, because again, so much of my early life was filled with so much drama, so much pain, so much difficulty, so much low self-esteem, low expectations.
Right.
So to know that you can actually want something out of life and actually get it. Now, it's not always easy, but it's
Right.
worth it. The commitment and the hard work you put to get what you want is worth it. But the key is that you have to follow somebody who's already done what you want to do.
Right.
Because if you do that, all you have to do is duplicate the steps. Just duplicate the steps of somebody who's done something that you want,
Right.
and then you'll do that. And it's just like being in a healthy relationship. You just got to talk to somebody who's in a healthy relationship
That's true.
and see some of the things that they do and then duplicate them, right? Because sometimes, unfortunately, we see people in unhealthy relationships and those patterns repeat themselves, right? So some of the bad habits that you see, you demonstrate. And unfortunately, it's just subconscious. It is just like if you're around somebody who's doing some productive things, it's subconscious. It just picks up on you. And you just start to do those things that you see,
Right.
right? So sometimes, even with our children, you and I really don't preach to our children, but they see what we do,
Right.
right? And they duplicate what we do.
Right.
So that's one of the things with raising children. I think you just got to make sure
Set an example.
you work hard to set the right example, right? You really work hard to set the right example so that they can follow behind the example that you set,
Right.
and do better than what you've done,
Right.
right? And take what you've done to a whole nother level. Because I think with us, what our parents did, we just trying to take it to another level, and then our children come behind us, take it to a higher level,
Higher level.
and then we constantly get out of this that we find ourselves in. some of these bad habits,
Right.
you know, that we're getting better at every day.
Right.
So, but that was a great topic, Tia, to say, who are you without your family and friends? I was thinking about it all week. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know how to answer that question. I felt bad because I felt like maybe like I'm nothing without my family and friends, you know? And that's how strong I am to family. Like without my family, I'm nothing. Because everything I do,
It's surrounded family.
Yeah, everything I do every day is for my family. Some of the sacrifices I make, because sometimes life gets challenging, but then when you think about your family, it makes it all worth it.
It's worth it.
And you know, some of the difficulties that you've had, you overcome them because you think about your family.
Right.
And you think about, hey, I know I could push just a little bit harder. Okay, I know I could push just a little bit harder. I know I could push just a little bit harder because you're thinking about your family.
Right.
Right? Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, good topic. So you need to come up with some more topics, T, because your topics are good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because, again, that was a really thought-provoking topic for me. And that really made...
Even though I came up with it, I still couldn't answer it.
Right. Yeah, but I thought it was... When I first heard it, I was like, wow.
It made you think.
It made you think, right? But I think it kind of reinforced what I believed. I think it shook it, but it reinforced what I believe. So that's how you really get your beliefs down pat. You got to challenge them, right? You challenge your beliefs, and then you really get secure about what you believe and why you believe what you believe by challenging it, right? To know that your belief is on solid ground. Right? To know it's not just say, hey, I believe this today and tomorrow I believe something else. But when you get it challenged, you know for a fact that you believe what you believe.
Right.
And you live it. You breathe it. And that's success. Really knowing what you want. It all goes back to knowing what you want. And I never forget, like I said, in college when my professor said, you have to have a philosophy. And once you have your philosophy, life becomes a lot better and worth living. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you get your philosophy, I'll see you. And yes, I do mean you. Living your dreams. Peace.